Hello and welcome to the latest Slightly Sidetracked podcast. My name is Luke. I'm an attempted writer, scriptwriter and astronaut. Today I'm once again joined by Jacob. Hello,
hey guys.
Welcome. And last time you were on we talked about comic book movies and got very angry about comic book movies.
Yeah, we
and
did.
I knew very little about comic book movies. And then, and this time we don't have that much of a plan, but you have an idea for something you'd like to...
Well, there's something I've wanted to get off my chest for a long time, and this might help me do that. I can get angry about it. It's basically all these Hollywood big blockbusters that decide, well, you know what? We made a lot of money on the first one. Let's make another one. It's these pointless sequels that we keep getting.
You don't think... So you think no film should have a sequel? Sort of thing.
Not necessarily. If a sequel works within the story, the framework of the story that's been set up, then yeah, I understand it. But when it's clearly the last film finished, completed, the story's all told, and they're like, oh, let's make some money, let's send out another one. And you can tell that the story's rushed and they've not really attempted to put much effort into it.
Yeah, especially ones when it comes out maybe like a year or so after it.
Yeah, exactly.
When the film seemed like quite standalone.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah. So, yeah, what sort of... Is there like one that in particular you'd like to talk about first?
There is one in particular that I would like to talk about first. One of my favourite franchises growing up as a kid was the Harry Potter franchise.
Okay.
I used to love the books. Loved the books, read them all. Read them all one summer once. That was a fun summer. And then they made the movies, and the movies were great. But the problem started with the original movies as well, when they decided to split the last one into two films. Why that needed to be two films, I do not know.
Was that the first one that did that? Or was that Twilight? Or I remember just around that time, just every teen...
They all split the
Young
last
drama.
one, didn't they? I'm pretty sure it was Harry Potter that did it first.
Yeah.
But I may need to check that, actually. But yeah, I think Harry Potter did it first with the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. So there's the first example of a useless sequel.
Yeah. Because I can't quite remember. At what point do they end the first Part 1?
Part 1 ends when Voldemort's just got the Elder Wand.
Yeah.
And Dobby's just died.
Yeah. But most of it's spent in a tent.
Most of it's spent in a
I
tent.
remember that because I'm not entirely sure whether I finished the last book. So I'm pretty sure I kept reading like 10 pages. And I think as a young sort of idiot, I got bored of it. But
yeah. A lot of the first, I believe, the first film covers the first 24 chapters of the book.
Oh, okay.
And there are 40, I believe, in the final book.
So they have evened it out.
So it is pretty even. I just think, and to be fair, I think it does end at a good point, the first one. It's just, it means the first one is all the legwork from the book, and then the second one gets to have all the fun. So it just means that the first one's a bit pointless, really. Nothing really happens in it, apart from, oh, they managed to destroy the locket thing, and Dobby dies. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of deaths in that film.
There is.
Hedwig was the worst one.
Oh yeah, saddest one by far. Apart from maybe Snape. Oh, that was the second one though.
Yeah. And Hagrid.
Look at my eyes. Hey, Hagrid died. I don't remember that happening.
It was in a post-credit scene.
Post-credit scene. They just went up to Hagrid and was like, "Oi, stabbed him." He was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Magic wouldn't kill me. It was always going to be a knife for me." And he killed over.
Yeah, it's horrible. But yeah, I mean, the Harry Potter films, I enjoyed, even though like they probably weren't the best actors.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
I liked the simple times of the first three.
Yeah,
especially the third one. Third one was all time travel-y, so that was sort of my thing.
Has that fun aspect?
And sort of just silly thing. Then it got very serious black, and I just I didn't get as interested. I mean, I still watched them all, but I don't know if I was quite. I'm not like the Harry Potter fan as loads of other people are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not. I mean, I am a big fan of the books, but the films, I'm not the biggest fan of. No, I think after the first three, you have a lot of fun with the first three, and then it gets really serious really quick. And a lot of people say, "Oh, but the books were like that as well." They weren't really. The first 5 books, I would say, were all pretty fun, and then it starts to get a bit serious. Yeah. But you know, the films seem to go there a lot quicker than the books did.
Yeah, but sort of, I'm guessing Deathly Hallows, you didn't mind too much being split.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it too much, and it did end at a good point, the first one, but it just seemed to make the first part pointless because you knew the story wasn't going to end there,
Yeah.
and so it was just a way of them making money basically by splitting this film into two.
But the thing that sort of it's this year we've had a sequel, which was sort of like fan made, but she approved.
She approved of it, yeah.
And you can buy the script, or you can see like the play for like £1 billion, I think. I don't know too much about it, although apparently that one is time travel as well.
Yeah, apparently. So I don't know much of the plot details, I must admit.
No, although apparently people say it does feel like a fan written thing.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But I can't judge it too much because I haven't seen it. But alongside that, we've got a prequel based on a book within a book.
Based on a book that appears in the book, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the trailer looked okay. I mean, it is fun to have more wizardy stuff.
Yeah,
I think
having kind of magic stuff actually happening, because that was one of my biggest problems, especially with the films. Not a lot of magic happens after the first few. It's kind of all. It just becomes about two spells in the end. It's either Harry's spell or Voldemort's spell. They're the only two spells that ever get used.
Yeah.
Oh, and Accio. They're the only three spells that ever get used after the fourth one.
It was like, so yeah. What's your impression of that? Do you think it's unnecessary, as you said, unnecessary sequels?
I do think it's unnecessary. I like the look of it. It does look pretty interesting, and I did like that they've kind of taken such a small element of the book and they're going to try and expand it. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's unnecessary for me. It's just another way to make Miss Rowling some money.
But you're still going to see it.
Some money. Well, I don't know. Might see it, might not. I've got a choice to make.
Yeah.
It's that or...
I'm pretty sure they've already confirmed sequels for it.
They have. There's 2 sequels, I believe, already planned. So, yeah.
So, I guess it's sort of... It's like based on an element of it, and I guess they're trying to do something new. I mean, it could work well. I guess it's sort of a wait and see sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if it had just been a standalone thing, I'd have said, yeah, that's pretty cool. You're keeping that franchise alive. You know, it's a way to bring in nostalgia and things like that. But because they've already planned more for it, it's a bit... Is it really wholly necessary? I don't think so, but we'll wait and see. Wait and see if it's any good. Okay. I do like Eddie Redmayne, though. So, yeah,
see the main character?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of, is it set like in America?
Yes, I believe so, yeah. He goes to America to try and track down these beasts.
That he let loose? Did he keep them in the book? Is that what they were saying?
Yeah, it's something like that. I must admit, I don't know an awful lot about it, but yeah, I think it's something like he was keeping an eye on them, and then they got loose, and now he has to go and catch them, and I think there's a dragon in it or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm honest.
Would you want... I mean, no, we've got the play, but I don't think that focuses on Harry. Would you... What if they'd done a sequel with, like, Old Man Harry?
Well, would
you hate that more?
I would hate that more, definitely, yeah. That's why I'm not... Although I don't like that they've done this play, because I think the story was told, and because it's not about him, did they really just slap the Harry Potter title on it? Because he's not even really in it all that much, apparently, so what's the point? If it had been about him, though, I'd have been extremely disappointed, because his story was told in those 7 books, in those 8 films, his story was completed.
But saying that, I mean, like I said, we weren't being very prepared for this podcast, but I'm not sure since Harry Potter, has there ever been any successful, like, really popular magic-themed movies since?
That's a good question.
Because I can't think of any off the top of my head.
There's been films that have had a magic person in it that's been pretty successful, although that's another one I was going to add to this list all on its own.
Oh, The Hobbit.
That would be The Hobbit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. I think, but... Yeah, it's sort of, I think it's become, because of how big Harry Potter was, it's very difficult to make a wizardy themed thing without people either saying it's ripping off Harry Potter or just
piggybacking off it. Like.
Yeah, sort of thing. Even though it's been ages, and it's probably going to be even more difficult now that they've brought it back.
Yeah.
For new magical ideas to sort of come forward, because there's a lot of stuff in. It's like, was it 8 books or 7 books.
7 books and 8 films.
Yeah, so there's a lot of magic content.
Yeah, that is true.
To be compared to. So maybe that's why people have gone with Harry Potter as sort of just because it's easier to not be linked.
Yeah, maybe it's slightly better to not get that comparison and not be judged against it, I suppose.
But yeah.
At the same time, there's always that fine balance, isn't it, of not keep doing the same thing over and over again. That would just annoy people, but also getting something original that is good. You can't just make something original that's useless. Tomorrowland.
And there was like, because what is it? We went to the cinema recently, and one of the trailers seemed sort of like, I don't think it was magical-ish. It was sort of like someone and her school for peculiar children.
Oh yeah.
And that looks like that's quite. I don't know if it's magic or just weird powers or what. But that seemed actually quite interesting.
Yeah, that did look pretty good. Was that Disney? Was it a Disney film or was it?
I'm not entirely sure. I probably should have looked it up, but yeah.
I do know the one you mean though. Yeah, with that is like Mrs. Pickwitties or something. Or
yeah, but it had like some kid who I guess doesn't know what his powers are. A girl who can fly. A young girl with a mouth on the back of her head, which looks really interesting. They remind me a bit of a series of unfortunate events with the kid, the baby that liked to eat things. Although she didn't have a mouth on the back of her head. That's something that's coming out. I'm getting sidetracked. But
slightly sidetracked.
Yeah. That they're making sort of a live action TV series for Netflix for that.
Oh, for a
Did you read the books?
I read the first few. Apparently, I don't know what order they went in. I read all the ones that were in the film. That were
So they were the first 3.
I never read any of the other ones, no.
Yeah, they're worth a read. They start off quite formulaic, like they all have. You move to a new family's place. Olaf shows up, but as it goes on, it gets more serious and darker. But it is still a kids thing. But that people are quite hopeful for the live action version.
Might have to check that.
Parents got Neil Patrick Harris as
Barney Stinson's in it.
Yeah, as Olaf.
I
think. I have to double check that. If I'm wrong, I'll remove this from the podcast.
So no one will have ever heard this.
Yeah, we can't have false facts.
Let's just say random stuff, shall we? Blah, blah, blah.
We can't have the false facts on this slightly sidetracked serious show.
I know we're winging it. I'm the Flash.
Wow. Well, thank you for taking time out
name drop that,
the filming schedule of, was it series 3 now?
Yeah. I'm actually Grant Gustin, really. This face comes off and I reveal this beautiful face that comes out.
Wow.
I wear this when I'm in the streets just to stop fans from swooning over me.
So, yeah, well, we mentioned Hobbit.
We did.
Hobbit. Now, a lot of people, it's sort of like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are like the big thing where people think you're nerdy if you watch them, but really the mass audience sort of all watched them.
And enjoyed them. So it's not really that nerdy.
Yeah. But they're sort of pretty popular, and obviously they decided to make
prequel trilogies.
Yeah. And originally that was going to be two films.
Yeah, the Hobbit was originally supposed to be 2 films. Yeah, they were going to split it in the same place where the first one was always going to be how it was, and then the second one was going to include all of it rather than having it into 2 separate films.
But when you first heard, before you even knew how many films there were going to be, and you heard that the Hobbit movie was being made, was it similar to how you feel about Harry Potter being redone?
No, there's much different. I'm a massive fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's books. Always loved them. There was a little bit of me that was a bit like, oh, is this just a cash grab? But then when Peter Jackson come back on board, I was like, no, they're serious about this. They want this to be good, so let's enjoy it.
The first one I thought was quite good as sort of a light-hearted adventure sort of thing, mixed with songs and stuff.
Old dwarf singing. My only problem with the first one is it takes them 42 minutes to get out of the Shire. But, they'd have cut that down a little bit. Maybe made that just 20 minutes or so. The first one would have been perfect. In fact.
With the trilogy as a whole, it did seem to be sort of cameo time.
Yeah.
They'd find any reason to get everyone back. It was kind of nice, but really took away from. It could have been a lot condensed.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, like, for example, I don't think there's any need really to have Frodo in it. That just seems pointless to have Elijah Wood turn up in the first one. And a couple of the, as they call them, the White Council, with Saruman and Elrond and whatever her face is. A couple of those scenes probably could have been taken out.
Yeah, because what was their story? It was just they wanted to try and link it to Lord of the Rings by adding more that wasn't in the book, or was it in notes?
It's mentioned in the book at the same point in the book that he does in the film. Gandalf goes off. He just suddenly disappears. I can't actually remember if they mention it. It's just all of a sudden. I think Bilbo turns around and Gandalf's not there all of a sudden, something like that. And then when he comes back later on, he mentions having gone to Dol Guldur, which is the big fortress that he goes to in the film. And so that happens, but you don't know about it until the appendices that were written at the end of the third Lord of the Rings book.
Oh, right.
Where he explained where Gandalf was
so
during
did
The
he,
Hobbit.
Oh, I can't remember. Did he write Hobbit first?
The Hobbit come first.
Yeah, and then tried to make a more serious
one with the Lord of the Rings later on.
But yeah, so I guess that's quite cool that I guess he must have kind of planned it then. If he included this scene where Gandalf disappears.
Right, a lot of people at the time said, oh, that kind of just happened. A lot of people said, oh, it's a way to get Gandalf out of the way when they're going through the forest, because obviously if Gandalf had been there, there'd have been no trouble. They'd have got out easy. Whereas with Gandalf not being there, the trouble can ensue and they can have a bit of fun with it. But obviously, later on he must have thought, well, you know what? Let's make something of this. Let's make it seem important.
But I don't feel like maybe you could have cut it completely, really.
Yeah, from the films definitely, because in the book it obviously it wasn't important. It didn't take away from the story, so I think you could have cut a large portion of it. I think maybe showing a little bit was all right, but you could have cut a large portion of it.
And in the books, I think this is more the third film, but all the massive battles, were they in the books, or was it just the dragon fight? That's where it ended.
The fight is in the books, and it's called the Battle of the Five Armies in the book as well.
Yeah.
The battle lasts 5 pages. in a 250 page book, the battle is 5 pages, and it gets stretched out into an hour and a half film.
Yeah, because I just remember being not that invested in the third one. Like I found it it didn't keep me interested throughout it all, because the dragon was sort of the main point. That was the aim of their adventure, really.
That's the thing they bigged up for 2 films, and then they get rid of it.
Everything else I was sort of like disregarding as sort of the subplots, and then it became the main theme. Because I can't remember what point do they fight is it the orc guy without an arm?
Oh, the pale orc, yeah.
Was that in the third one?
They do. They fight him. They beat him at last in the third one, but they did actually face him in the first one as well, right at the end. Because he's not in the book either. Azog.
No. Yeah.
He's mentioned, and he is the guy who Legolas kills in the third one. The other kind of big orc. He's the main orc in the book. Borg, I believe is his name, something like that. And he is Azog's son in the books as well, but Azog's never actually mentioned. So it's kind of just like, okay, let's bring up this character who's like mentioned once in I think one line of the appendices. Let's bring him and make him the main villain of these films.
Yeah, but so I don't know. It was sort of like a mixed bag with this one. So
The Hobbit was
after seeing them, are you still glad that they were made, or do you think they're now not necessary?
I am glad that they were made, but one of them definitely was unnecessary. The Battle of the Five Armies was unnecessary. I think, to be honest, if you were going to do it that way, cut out all the Gandalf stuff, put the first 10 minutes of Battle of the Five Armies onto the last 10 minutes of Desolation of Smaug, and then finish it there. Just do 2. Just tell the Smaug story. Don't have the rest of it. I mean, that would probably have annoyed book readers, myself included, because they didn't include the battle that was in the book. But at least you would have had a really good story, a fun story, told over 2 films. And there you go. Because
this was intended to be sort of like a younger, sillier thing, and I think some people went into it expecting it to be as serious as Lord of the Rings, and that's why a lot of people got disappointed, I think.
With the first one especially, And then when they tried to make it a bit darker in the second one, they were like, oh no, it's too dark for The Hobbit, you can't have that. so you can't win with these people.
But But there's also other books set in the Hobbit-y world.
In the same
what are they
universe, yeah.
about? Like, do you think they could stretch those?
Well, the other big one is the Silmarillion, which is sort of the story of the person who Sauron used to work for when he was kind of the big dark ruler, and they had to try and stop him by getting these little things from the Tree of Life called the Silmarils. That would never work as a film.
No?
It's far too long. It would never work as a film. You'd have to do about 6 different films to explain it all. I've always thought they should do the Silmarillion like Game of Thrones. They should do it as a TV show.
Yeah,
I think it would work as that.
TV is getting a lot bigger now.
It is.
It's a lot easier to get bigger budgets and things like that. So you think they could do... So what's it? So they're hunting for things...
They're looking for these things that are going to be helpful to beat... what's his name? The main... Malakoth or something like that.
Right.
Begins with an M, let's put it that way. He's kind of the big evil, and like I say, Sauron is one of his lieutenants.
Yeah.
And also you remember the giant spiders, including Shelob?
Yeah.
One of his servants is their mother. Sorry, is all the spiders' mother.
Alright. But you don't think like they could make it into like Harry Potter length series?
I mean, maybe it would kind of work, but it would be... Whereas Harry Potter, a lot of those, like, there are their own self-contained story, as well as having the whole Voldemort thing going through all of them.
Yeah.
It's self-contained years. Like, he does, you got Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban. There is a story in each of them.
Yeah.
The Silmarillion is one big story, so it would be that you'd have to cut it at a certain point, and it would definitely not feel like just one movie. You would have to watch them all in a row in order to get the whole story, and I just don't think that would work.
Sort of like, what characters do they follow? Is it loads and loads of people? Is it that complicated way?
There's not loads of characters. There is only a few main ones that you would follow. You would follow the Valar, who are, for example, Gandalf is one of those. But he's not in the Silmarillion, but he becomes one of the Valar later on.
Oh, right.
They're kind of like the people who are brought in from... I've got it right. I'm not going to go too in depth because I'm sure a lot of people will be like, what does that even mean? Never heard of Valar. What does that even mean? So I won't go too in depth. But yeah, there's a few you could pick as main characters that would go into it. But there's a lot of explaining to do. Let's put it that way.
But yeah, the TV show idea sounds quite good.
Yeah, I think that would work. Like I say, it'd be very similar to Game of Thrones. I think.
Yeah.
You could have all those different.
Well, that's
characters.
coming to an end. We've got the last two. Well,
Maybe.
2 mini-series sort of.
Yeah.
They're going to split the next one. I don't know if that's like maybe so they have more budget for
Possibly.
sort of each section, but
Maybe
yeah.
it's because the next 2 books aren't supposed to be that long, and so they can just cram it all into those episodes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never read the Game of Thrones books, I'm not gonna lie.
I read the first one, but I believe it really helped that I'd seen the show first, because there's so many names, and like I'm terrible with names in person. So for me that was a bit difficult, and I started reading the second one, Blend. I think I got put on hold, and I haven't really got back to it. But I know that the final books keep being sort of held back,
don't they? Yeah.
So I guess he's sort of sorting things out on that.
Yeah.
But maybe after a few years after Game of Thrones come to an end and people get like a medieval itch, they can...
HBO can be like, right, we're doing the Silmarillion now.
Yeah. I have a read, maybe I can quickly cash in on that.
You can run over to America and be like, I want to make a Silmarillion TV show.
Yeah, I'll get you on as producer.
Oh yeah, sounds good. And actor, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll just act it. I mean,
we'll just do it.
You've seen the videos on my channel of the low budget... No, I've got no like actual like directors or camera people, but we can make the film.
Yeah, we can make it. We'll make the Strawley Knot Part 2.
Yeah,
the Silmarillion. That's what it would be called.
Nice.
Detective Bottle can appear in it as well, and Detective Lettuce.
Yeah.
Lettuce, come in.
But so that would be a TV show. I think you once mentioned to me before. There's like really, really short books set in the world.
There are. So he did this piece of work. His son released a piece of work called The Unfinished Tales, which tells a lot of stories. For example, there's a character who appears in the first book, for like a really short scene called Tom Bombadil, and he's quite a cool character actually. He because the forest around the Shire is kind of magic, and so they get trapped in one of these trees, or it's called a widget or something, I believe, like that. And they get trapped in one, and he saves them. And so it tells the story. It tells one of the unfinished tales is about him. It tells one of the adventures that he goes off on. So it's
nice.
Pretty interesting.
You think they could stretch that out to a film?
I mean, yeah, they could do a couple of spin-offs as having all these random films, but the problem is Tom Bombadil was never introduced into the main films, so you'd have to introduce him, then show how he ties into the original story, and then tell this story. So there's a lot of work involved there, a lot of legwork that you'd have to go through. So maybe
you don't think that even like the Hollywood people will.
I mean, the Hollywood people, knowing them, they probably will, but I don't think it's worth it. No.
No. But so yeah, so we sort of covered Hobbit. Other ones, I was gonna say, we've got Star Wars. That's probably got the most sort of spin-off, sequels, prequels ever.
It's definitely
both in all formats. Sort of, you've got from like Christmas special sing-alongs to like games, Lego games, books,
there's a TV show,
series.
Isn't there?
Yeah,
and a cartoon TV show as well.
Yeah, is that like Clone Wars or something? Apparently, that's one of the TV shows for Star Wars supposed to be really good.
I believe. I think Rebels is supposed to be the really good one. I think Clone Wars is the kind of it's all right, not too bad. I don't know. I don't watch either. I'm not a massive Star Wars fan myself, but
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen them, and like I went to see the latest one just because like. Well, I guess all the excitement that people really wanted to see.
You get kind of whipped up in it, don't you?
Although, I guess, spoilers again. I went to go see it with a friend. I think you were almost going to come, but couldn't at the time or something. But you saw it another time, and I got to cinema early, and I was waiting for my friend to show up and his friends, and someone walks out the cinema screen. And goes, oh, I can't believe Han Solo died.
Just takes away a bit there.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay then. Well, I've got that to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, it'd been so long. Like, I didn't really bother with trying to rewatch the originals.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have gone and watched the prequels because they were hated by pretty much everyone. I think.
They were critics.
You know, some
fans.
people I think see them as like so bad they're good.
There are a few. I think in the last few years, there are a few fans who are coming out and saying, actually, you know what? The second and third one aren't that bad.
Yeah,
it's mainly just the first one that's awful.
Pod racing and
yeah. But I mean, I'm going to come out and admit this here. I actually kind of liked the prequels. I thought they were. I mean, the first one is awful. I'll give you that. But I kind of liked the second and third one. I thought they were quite interesting.
Even
actually.
with the, what was it like? I have the high ground and stuff like that. Or
don't jump over me. I have the high ground. Okay, I'm gonna jump over you anyway. Oh look, I cut you in half.
Or he killed the younglings or stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's loads of like really bad quotes I can get from
even
it.
with Ewan McGregor's wooden acting, it wasn't too bad.
But yeah, but basically I didn't mind it, but it did seem sort of like, as people said, it was just a rehash
of the very first one.
Yeah, and
it's very similar.
I mean, in some ways I can see why they're doing it. Maybe it was to try and reintroduce people and get new audiences in, and they thought maybe if we rely on the original,
which works so well, you know.
That's how we can get people interested.
Definitely.
Because I mean, I really like the new characters. Already forgotten their names, but I like them.
Ray and Finn.
Yeah. They were. I quite like them. They were sort of good. There was a lot of sort of bringing back old characters, and I mean, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't seem too necessary.
It seemed a bit like with The Hobbit. You know, they just seem to kind of make a way up, or they seem to just kind of invent a way of bringing in some of the older characters.
Yeah, and it's sort of like it seems it's definitely a sequel rather than a reboot because the whole focus on finding Luke.
Yeah.
And
not this
I guess
Luke. About Skywalker now, not Ackroyd.
But if he was like, it's sort of, if this was your first Star Wars film to watch, I don't know why. I mean, you don't see him at all. You just hear him go, "Oh, really nice to find that Luke guy." So, like as a standalone film, it's a bit like,
I think you needed to have been a fan of the franchise beforehand, wouldn't you, to understand who's this Luke guy?
Yeah,
Why
to get
is
the
he so
importance of him,
important,
because I don't know. I don't think you have enough about him to be as I don't know. I'm making it up as I go, really. But yeah, especially when you get to the end of it, you finally find him, and all it is an awkward staring contest.
All it is, oh look, she's holding her hand out. I'll just look down on you like that because I'm better than you. So I'm gonna look down on you.
But it was just So I don't know. It's got potential. I'm interested to see where they go from it. I'm guessing they have to come up with original ideas now.
You'd hope so. I do like the idea of this big giant guy. I don't know what he's going to say.
Yeah, apparently that I really want him to be giant. Apparently he's just a hologram thing.
Oh no! I was hoping he was going to be a really, really tall guy.
Yeah, I remember someone said that to me when I was like, it's really nice that they got giants in
that's
Star
a bit
Wars.
disappointed. I was thinking, yes, we got this giant guy. How are the Jedi going to beat him? And
he's sort of like the Star Wars version of Thanos. He's got his own chair. He's really big, but yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where they go from it. I think they've done well enough with it. I'm not sure if they really need all these spin-off prequel things.
Yeah, no, like this. What's the one this year? Rogue One.
Yeah.
It's supposed to tell the tale that's set just before the fourth one, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, something about. I think it's the people who have to get the plans for the Death
Star. Yeah,
it's an interesting idea. I mean, when I first heard that they were doing this prequel, some reason I misheard it. I misunderstood, and I thought it was a film about Darth Vader sending people to go fetch some plans, like the original plans for Death Star. And I was thinking, like, well, what didn't they just? Wouldn't he have been there when they were making the plans? So exactly. I got confused, but I was thinking, like, cool, we're seeing like the bad guy side.
Yeah.
But no, we're still the good guys trying to find these plans.
Oh, so there is one. They're supposedly planning a Boba Fett one as well. It's supposed to be a spin-off, and I wouldn't mind seeing that because he's supposed to be this really cool character. Yet I watched the original trilogy recently, and I counted. He has 5 lines in the original trilogy, and he's supposed to be one of the biggest characters.
Yeah, and sort of doesn't he get like killed off just rather suddenly,
rather abruptly? Yeah, he's got. I think I'm trying to remember what the whole joke is. Oh yeah, he's killed by a blind Han. Han's kind of been blinded, and he manages to shoot him and kill him. It's all a bit like, okay, really? This guy's like a big bounty hunter, and he gets killed by a blind man.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's been too long since I've seen the films. But you said he doesn't have many lines, but does he actually do much action-wise?
He does a fair bit. I mean, he captures them in the second one, doesn't he?
Oh, okay, yeah. So he has.
Vader.
He has proven himself as sort of an interesting character. He just hasn't said anything.
Just hasn't said a lot. So it'd be nice to hear him speak a bit more.
Yeah. Or maybe he's mute. Maybe he hasn't got a tongue.
Maybe.
Maybe that's what the prequel's about.
It's about him getting his new tongue.
Yeah.
Or him losing his tongue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we see his dad in the original one speaks quite a lot. So it'd be interesting to hear him speak a bit more.
So I think we're just sort of similar to the last podcast. We're just sort of dipping into random films, saying a little bit about them. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, it's interesting for viewers or listeners. One thing I was going to move on to was because you're not too keen on sequels and things. I was always like going to say,
I know it's coming.
Like, do you consider the Marvel movies? I know some of them definitely are sequels because they've got 2 in the name and stuff like that. But could you count them all as just sequels because they are links?
Because of
I mean, sometimes tiny, sometimes massively. Because like Civil War is a Captain America film, but that's linked
all
to...
of them are in it, aren't they? It's kind of... A lot of people have said like Civil War is kind of an Age of Ultron sequel in a way. It's almost another Avengers film because obviously all the Avengers are in
that's what I assumed it was until like I think people like you said actually it's a Captain America focused thing. I remember I think I said last time in the podcast that when you were on that I did like that it focused down on these 2 characters. I think that's how it worked well. But yeah, do you count them as all just one massive long line of sequels?
Yeah, that's a good question. Personally, no. I do take each individual character's own films as their own franchise, and they're just involved in this bigger franchise. And there's all these little tie-ins, obviously. But I do consider them their own franchise.
Yeah.
However, on the topic of pointless sequels, if we do look at each individual franchise, I think Iron Man's now gone too far.
Are they going to make more for him?
They're going to make a fourth one, apparently. In Phase 4, we're going to get a fourth Iron Man film. I think he's gone too far. I think his story's been told now, really, in all the films that he's been in.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all weird though. Now that they're all aware of one another, every time they get standalone sequels, it's probably going to get harder and harder because there's more and more superheroes showing up.
Exactly.
Trying to explain why is no one ever helping?
Someone isn't helping.
Can't they all just? You're all just in the same city.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like the well-defended place.
It's like in Thor 2, obviously, that the whole universe is at stake, and yet it's just Thor trying to save the day. Although they do have a little excuse in that one, because obviously that takes place in London, so it might be a bit harder for all these guys to get there quickly.
To get a flight. I mean, haven't they got like flying HQs and things?
Well, not just that, but Iron Man himself can fly, so it shouldn't be too hard for him to get there. But yeah, I mean, and also in like Captain America, The Winter Soldier as well. I mean, that's a great film, but I mean, the New York basically gets blown up, and no one else is there to help. I mean, we know Spider-Man was around, so what was he doing? So it's going to get very hard to explain why certain heroes aren't helping out the others.
Yeah. Because, like, do you know how many new origin films that they're going to be introducing?
Well, in the next few years, there's a fair few coming. We've got Doctor Strange this year. There's Black Panther next year. Although I don't think that's going to be an origin story. I think they're just going to jump straight in because obviously we've seen him already.
I think his origin it happened in Civil War, really, because he wasn't. I don't think he was being a vigilante before. No,
well, Black Panther isn't actually a vigilante anyway. His origin is kind of the Black Panther suit, and he has. I think there's a necklace as well that kind of gives him his kind of super speed and powers that he has. Gets passed down through the royal family line, and obviously in Civil War we saw his dad get killed, and so that's why he takes on the mantle of the Black Panther. But yeah, the only thing they could probably explain is they'll probably go into Claw, who was in Age of Ultron. That was Andy Serkis. May not have recognised Andy Serkis because he finally played a live action character for a change. But yeah, his character is a big Black Panther character, so they might go into him a bit more.
Oh, okay.
I might tell his origins, and that will tie into T'Chilla's origins as well.
But it's sort of like the thing of, depending on when they set these origins, sort of it's even more characters to try and explain where have they been.
What have they been doing all this time?
Because like the new Spider-Man one, are they finally not going to do an origin for him?
As far as I'm aware, they're not doing an origin. They're jumping straight in because he's already Spider-Man, obviously. Yeah. They might touch on it. They might say like, oh yeah, my uncle died and so I took up this. I decided to, with great power and all that comes great responsibility. Or they'll come up with some other way of saying that, like they did in The Amazing Spider-Man. You have a moral obligation to do these things. Hold on, isn't that what the other Uncle Ben just said? No. But that's the other thing as well. I mean, in the Spider-Man film, Tony Stark's going to be in it, so it's like you were clearly tying it in and everything. So maybe they do count. They should all count as sequels. Yeah. That's the problem with this is the first time we've had this kind of big expanded universe with multiple different franchises all coming together in a team-up film and stuff. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think they kind of get it work. I mean, I'm a bit overwhelmed with it. I don't really want to watch every single one because I mean, I'm kind of interested in this whole superhero thing, but because I'm not haven't read the comics,
it's a bit more difficult to kind of follow it all.
Yeah, it's sort of like maybe I'm not as invested because I haven't spent loads and loads of issues
following these characters. It's going to be even harder as well when they get all the TV show characters to start appearing in the films as well.
Yeah. Are they planning to do that with Daredevil? And
supposedly, after they've done the Defenders team up, Daredevil's going to get his own film. So that's what they're kind of establishing him in the Netflix show, and then they're going to give him his own film.
That's sort of where it gets complicated though, because some people are more film watchers than TV show watchers.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's a lot more hours to get invested in watching a TV show to catch up. But I do like that they're going to keep him rather than with what annoyed you with DC.
They're not going to change the actor, thankfully.
But yeah, does that mean Jessica Jones will become something?
Eventually, she'll probably.
I think she's a great character.
She's a big Avengers character in the comics, so she
right.
will probably be part. Because supposedly after Phase 3, after Infinity War, the Avengers lineup is going to look very different for the next Avengers film after.
Oh,
so
right, yeah.
they've got to try and bring up some of these other characters to put into the Avengers.
Yeah. I'm just it's sort of a bit of a disappointment that we can't have Kilgrave more.
Can't have some more Kilgrave in the film. Although he could get resurrected. You know, this is comic books after all. I mean,
have they done that in the cinematic universe yet?
The only one a lot of people go to is Loki. Obviously, at the end of Thor, he kind of falls into a black pit, and then in the post-credit scene, he's alive, and in the Doctor's head, so it's kind of like, hang about, didn't you die, mate?
Yeah, because it's always like a risky move. Once you start introducing resurrection to stuff, it takes away.
It does take away a bit from the story, doesn't it? Like that's just to jump to DC again and to switch to their TV universe. On Arrow, they introduced this thing called the Lazarus Pit, which brings people back from the dead.
Right.
But then they destroyed it. So, you know, it's good that they introduced it, you know, as a cool little thing for comic book fans, but then they got rid of it, so death was a thing still. You know, they couldn't keep going to the well, so to speak.
Yeah, but how did the getting rid of it, did it feel justified, or did it feel like, oh, they're just getting rid of it just to explain why they can't bring characters back?
Oh, it was pretty good, actually, because the woman who destroyed it, it was because, it's going to get quite confusing now, the sister of the woman who got brought back to life. Wait, hang on. No, hang on. No, the woman who got brought back to life by her sister was was in love with the woman who ended up destroying the pit. Okay. And because she thought when this woman who was dead comes back, the pit changes you, it makes you kind of evil. That's why she didn't want her to go in it, but she went in it, and so when she came back to life, she destroyed the pit, so it couldn't be used again.
Yeah.
So they did it. It made sense storyline wise. I didn't really explain that very well. Go watch Arrow. You'll find out what happens. Arrow season 4 now out on Blu-ray.
Season 4. Oh wow. Yeah, I was gonna go. We were also gonna talk about with the sequels and prequels things. Ones where like maybe we got it right once,
but didn't get it right
again. And the main one we thought of was the Nolan Batman movies.
Batman films, yeah.
We see comic book themes once again, but
that's all I know about. I'm an expert, remember? But yeah, no, yeah, definitely they got that right. You know, the Batman Begins was a very good start, and then obviously The Dark Knight was, for me personally, it's my favourite film of all time. I think it's a perfect film. I can see no faults, apart from, you know, if you don't let me destroy this computer, I'm not going to work for you anymore. That seemed a little bit excessive there, Lucius, but you know, you could be like that if you want. But yeah, no, yeah, and they got that right. And then The Dark Knight Rises, I personally, I like The Dark Knight Rises. I don't think it's a terrible film, but there is a lot of plot holes in it. And it also, the thing I would say is, I do think it needed to continue. It needed a concluding chapter, because The Dark Knight doesn't really complete Bruce's journey, whereas I think The Dark Knight Rises does accomplish that. It completes his journey, you know, he's
by blowing him up and then not really blowing him up.
Yeah, by blowing him up and then not really blowing him up, but like he saves the city, so to speak. Gotham is now kind of safe. Crime is like the Dent Act is in effect, so all the mafia bosses are all in jail. You know, now that Batman's not in existence anymore, there's going to be no supervillains from the League of Assassins coming to blow it up.
Yeah.
So it's all. I do think it concludes it well. However, it's I think the fact that it's not a very good film is what makes a lot of people say, "Oh, it wasn't needed. We didn't need that because it wasn't a very good film." But I do think it. Where this differs from some of the ones earlier, I do think The Dark Knight Rises was needed. Whereas some of those ones earlier, they weren't needed. They were put in for money.
Yeah.
So from a storyline perspective, The Dark Knight Rises makes sense. Just it's not a very good film. That's the best way. That's how you sell The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
It's the movie that we need, but it's not very good right now.
I was also going to say about sequels that have done well.
Yeah.
Sort of, I guess one that we thought of a moment ago before we started the podcast was Toy Story, where 1, 2 and 3
all very successful films.
Yeah.
Very highly critically acclaimed, and it all makes sense. I think they were all. I mean, not they are all their each individual story as well, but it's kind of the story of growing up, if you will.
Yeah, I do like
maturing and things like that.
That between like the gaps between each film they did, the characters have aged.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's sort of like I think maybe we were slightly older than what it was, but the idea of it's been so many years that now the Andy character is going off to college and things like that.
And like, you see the different stages, don't you, of a childhood, so to speak.
And it was sort of like new toys. What was the second one's main stuff? That was like
second one was kind of it was when he was going to be sold, wasn't he? To that
they were just sort of going with like your kid's gonna grow up eventually.
Yeah.
Should you?
Because Jesse was it was the kind of the character they focused on. Like, oh look, I was ditched. All kids ditch you in the end, and it was Woody trying to say like, no, that's not true.
Yeah, and that was like quite an interesting sort of theme for it.
Yeah.
And they decided to stick with him anyway. Like, we've still got a few more years left.
Yeah.
And then the final film was, it's happened.
It's happening now.
The inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, and like and that was really good. And then it was sort of ending with them starting again and moving to a new kid.
Yeah.
But it was a concluded ending.
Exactly. It was a good finish. And now we get the news.
Yeah, the fourth one. And I don't think we know anything about it yet.
I don't think anything's been released yet, no.
But I'm interested because like they were adamant at the end of the third one
that was it.
That was it. We're not doing any more. And then was it a few years later?
It was like, oh, we need some money. Let's make a fourth Toy Story film.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see because like this now it does seem like a cash grab. I know like when people heard about the third one, we were all saying this, so maybe they will prove us wrong again.
I hope so.
But it's like, what story would they do?
Exactly. I mean, the only thing you can think is that it's going to be this new owner now is going to ditch them as well. That's the only thing I can really think of.
What I want is them to go sort of like toy soldier mode or small soldiers and just basically have it. I want to find out because they're living creatures that hide when humans are around. Surely, I mean, we've had it with when they mess up the neighbour kid, Sid, and sort of he's now just a dump. We've probably gone into therapy and things. I'd like to see that on a bigger scale. I mean, I know for a kids film we'll never get it done, but I would love to just see what happens. Like maybe the toys start getting found out and they've got to go into hiding.
Got to plan a war against the
maybe
humans.
it goes into sort of like Planet of the Apes style. Now, these intelligent sort of lesser creatures fighting back. Or like Sausage Party, which we saw recently. But
where they had to drug the humans in order to get them to see them. Not sure you're going to get drugs in a Toy Story film, but you never know.
But they at least uprised in that one.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end.
Yeah.
That was spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. That's not all they had either, but we won't go into that. Yeah. This is a kid's show.
But yeah, I mean that seems like an interesting way to do with it. But I'm just trying to think of other toy-related
things you could do. I mean, they kind of already touched on the whole broken toy, not getting looked after thing. Yeah. So I don't know. There's not really much more they could go into, is there? Really?
And they've done Lost Toy sort of twice, really. Yeah. Unless maybe they're because like it's set. Is it 80s or 90s or something? It's supposed.
That's
to be
when it's supposed to be set around. Yeah.
So. I mean, maybe it's moving on to like modern technology.
Yeah,
maybe they'll do a Black Mirror style thing with the horrors of technology, and the toys are like, we need to save our.
We need to let old toys be the winning toys.
But yeah, I don't know, it's another one of wait and see, similar with Harry Potter and things like that. And another one to wait and see, I guess, is Prometheus, a prequel sequel.
The prequel sequel, yeah.
I mean, did you see the Prometheus one?
I watched Prometheus and I've seen Alien and Aliens. I never watched Alien 3. But
I still need to see those two because I really want to, because apparently they're supposed to be amazing. I think like Alien is sort of like a horror-y survival thing, and then Aliens is a shooter.
Yeah, I must admit, I I watched Alien before I watched any of the other ones. I didn't know it was a horror film.
Okay.
So I was watching it, and all of a sudden this guy like has his chest melted, and I'm like, okay, didn't see that coming. I'm just gonna go throw up now and then watch the rest. But then when I read it was a horror film, I was like, okay, let's not watch this at midnight. Let's watch this at 10 o'clock in the morning rather than midnight.
I gotta say, I mean, like, did you ever play the latest Alien game?
I haven't.
I really like that. I mean, I couldn't play it for very long because I just get too scared. But that really gets the feel of the first Alien, and you just and you can even like plug in a microphone so they can hear you breathing. So that affects when the alien can hear you.
Oh, nice.
But that is a brilliant game. I mean, I wish like hopefully maybe it will become like backwards compatible so I can play it again. But that sort of gave me a good feel. So I get a kind of an idea. It's a bit cheaty, but I get the idea of what the originals were about. Prometheus, it seems like they really stretched themselves to try and link it to Alien, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't think it worked that well.
They should.
Yeah, I think the first three is kind of the main character is played by Sigourney Weaver. It's kind of her story of kind of survival, if you will, in this new world that she encountered. The first one is all about her kind of coming into her own because she's kind of subservient to the men of the crew, if you will, and it's all about her kind of female empowerment, if you will.
Ah, cool.
And they put it in a sci-fi setting, which I thought worked really well. And then the second one is about her surviving in this harsh terrain that she finds herself in, and then the third one gets a little bit weird because they kind of bring her back to life because she spoiler alert, she dies at the end of the second one, and they kind of bring her back to life, and it's a little bit weird, but it's all. Whereas I thought the Alien sequels were all kind of necessary, if you will. I keep using that word, necessary, but they made sense basically from a storyline perspective. I don't really think Prometheus did.
No, because it sort of. I don't think it really knew whether it wanted to be a standalone sort of exploration in space movie or an Alien prequel.
Yeah, exactly.
And they tried to do both, and I think that's where it went wrong.
It just kind of suffered from that, I think.
That along with sort of like the stupid decisions and the whole wanting to get answers, but we don't actually have any answers we want to commit to saying this film sort of found out, so we won't do any, and just make the alien at the end just be an angry guy that's like, how dare you wake me up? Here, I'll rip your head off, robot.
Exactly, yeah.
But and other than a sequel, I mean, I don't know how, because unless maybe because so many people watched the last one but before they found out they hated it.
I think they always planned to do another one after Prometheus, but I'm not sure if they ever planned it to be a Prometheus sequel or another Alien prequel.
Yeah.
And I think because of the name of it, it is kind of going to be an Alien prequel, this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'll really go and see this one because of the disappointment of.
Yeah, I think I might give this a miss. And then
I mean, saying that, I think at the time watching it the first time, it was entertaining enough.
Yeah.
But it's one where reflecting on it later on, you're like, oh.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
It seems to be a lot of these, there's a bit of a trend, isn't there, at the minute, of taking these old franchises that were pretty good franchises, you know, not maybe the best, but then doing a modern telling of them, and it's like a reboot or a spin-off or a sequel or something, and it doesn't really work. Like Terminator. The first three Terminator films. The first three are the third one's but the first two are brilliant. Yeah. And then they did the Genesis or whatever that's supposed to be, because it's not spelled right, so I'm not saying Genesis.
That was like set in the future.
Yeah. It's meant to take place. It takes place after the original ones, doesn't it? But then they reboot the timeline or something.
That's then second one after that.
Oh right.
So they had one which was, I think, some random guy playing John Connor.
Yeah.
I think that's his name. And in the future, I think I didn't see that one because I got warned about how terrible it was going to be.
Oh right.
And then we had more recently the Terminator with Arnie back, and sort of I went to see it because I was friends with someone who was a really big fan of like the Terminator ones, and sort of I guess out of like morbid curiosity wanted to see what they'd do.
Yeah.
And it was weird sort of seeing how they tried to do the whole changing the timeline thing, and they messed it up really weird, and the time travel doesn't work at all. But with most time travel films, they don't. But they did the whole robots coming in at the wrong times and stuff like that, and they made John Connor the villain.
Yeah,
but
I saw that. Yeah,
they revealed it in the trailer.
In the trailer, yeah.
And I think that probably ruined it because, like, I mean, it's not a very good twist that anyone really wants to see.
No,
but at least it would have been a shock.
In the film, you'd have been like, "Oh, okay, I didn't see that coming."
But yeah, they didn't do too well with that, and I think they were wanting to do more, but I think the bad publicity of that.
Yeah, no, don't do it. And,
yeah.
And then but you got others as well, like Indiana Jones.
That's coming back again, isn't it?
Yeah, they're doing another one, but I think they're changing the main character, aren't they? It's not going to be Harrison Ford anymore.
Right.
I think.
I know people really want Chris Pratt to be him, but I think he himself has said he's played too many like adventure-y hero characters.
Well, speaking of Chris Pratt, one franchise where I think kind of the reverse fortune has happened, they brought it back and it's actually made it a bit stronger. The Jurassic Park franchise. Yeah. I thought Jurassic World was really good.
I thought it was okay. What did you like about it?
Well, I just thought it was. I think it kind of went back to the original. Yeah. You know, there was no silly, let's go to civilization and throw these dinosaurs into there. It was like, no, the park's up and running. This is what I wanted to see, the park up and running all this time. We finally got it. Okay, I was a bit disappointed that it was like, oh, look, something went wrong again because we didn't set up security measures for that. Oh, what was it? They got tricked because it could camouflage or something.
Yeah, and they had heat seekers, but they didn't check the heat seekers.
Exactly, yeah. And then instead of them waiting to go in and find out what was happening and waiting for her to call, they went in straight away. It's like, oh yeah, shit, guys, you're all about to get eaten because it's actually still in there. But I thought it was I mean, don't get me wrong, it has its flaws, storyline perspective, but I thought it was a pretty decent film. I think it's the best of the Jurassic Park sequels.
Yeah. I remember being sort of kind of entertained by it, but I don't know. I think the whole point of Jurassic Park was that it should never be a park, and that was what we learned in the first one. Yeah. And I don't know. I think that was one that should have been a standalone thing, as much as people wanted it to see more of this place. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's probably better than the sequels they had nearer the time. But I don't know. I don't think they should do any more.
I think they're already doing one.
Oh,
I think it's called, the next one's being called Jurassic Park 5, I believe. They're dropping the world part of it.
Oh, right.
I don't know why they didn't just call this one, call the next one Jurassic World 2 or call this one Jurassic Park 4. But
yeah. They always do it. I think because people get worried when you see like anything further than 3, people get worried that people are going to go like, oh no, that's that far a sequel. Maybe we should
change the title a little bit.
Yeah. Give it not even the Harry Potter ones have I don't think it's like Harry Potter 5, Harry Potter 6. No, it's Harry Potter Andler.
Yeah.
To try and
Still, I'm looking forward to the next one. It should be alright.
Yeah.
I hope so. Anyway.
What about King Kong being remade as a prequel set in modern day?
Prequel, aren't they? Skull Island, is it called or something?
Yeah.
I'm not I don't know an awful lot about it. Is he going to be big already, or is he small?
I think he's supposed to be even big, like massive, because they're planning apparently in 2020 to have a Godzilla King Kong crossover. So they need to make a bigger King Kong.
Yeah. Because that was the problem when they first originally made them. King Kong was always supposed to be half the size of Godzilla.
Oh, right.
And so when they went up and they did a crossover film of them it was a long time ago, and all of a sudden King Kong was the same size. Godzilla couldn't use his atomic breath, and King Kong could breathe fire, and everyone was like, "Wait, what? That's never happened before. What's going on?" So a little disappointed that they're kind of changing it just so he can match Godzilla if they do a crossover, but I'm looking forward to Skull Island. It should be alright.
Because I think, although I thought that the King Kong movie was quite long, I did quite like the whole adventuring through an island thing and sort of seeing all the different monsters and stuff that they came across. That was quite nice to see. I think it's sort of when they tried to do the classic ending with the thing. I remember speaking to someone once before, and they mentioned the whole not explaining how they got a giant gorilla on a very tiny boat.
Exactly.
Like they didn't even show him build a raft for him or anything, and how much chloroform did they have to keep him unconscious for the entire journey, and all these problems, and sort of it seems that this prequel futuristic one won't explain that either.
Yeah.
Although we don't even know whether they will leave the island
The
with
island
him.
in this one, like, yeah, because I suppose because that's another thing. Obviously, we've had quite a few King Kong tellings now, and obviously, you know, it all goes the same. Beautiful girl kidnapped by a big gorilla. They use her to capture him. They go to New York. He falls off a building. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that stuff's not going to happen in this. So this is a prequel, so that's
Yeah.
quite good. It's going to be a kind of different story, if you will.
Yeah, so it might be interesting. I think it's like next year or 2 years or
Yeah.
something like that. So maybe. I'm skeptical, but
At the same time, there's that hope that it might be
But-
alright.
I am not interested at all in a crossover thing.
Oh yeah, no. Because I did like the new Godzilla. It's definitely better than the one we got a few years ago, where he looks like a giant iguana rather than an actual lizard. But I think they still need to establish that first, considering he was only in it for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They kind of need to establish Godzilla a bit more before just throwing them together, you know?
Yeah. It's sort of, and I didn't like the Godzilla film at all.
Oh, not at all.
But no. So, yeah, for me, I imagine it'll be similar to that film with just a massive monster fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's the thing as well. In the original ones, it was all right when they were in black and white and Japanese. You know, you can just have big monsters mashing up against each other and no one cares. Whereas nowadays, you kind of need that human element involved. And I think that was the problem with the Godzilla films they've had so far, is that the human characters are kind of they have to really take center stage rather than a big monster, and it just takes away from it a little bit. You're like, I don't really care about this army guy. Why didn't he call his wife and say, leave the city, a giant lizard's about to attack?
Yeah.
Instead just called her and was like, stay there, I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was thinking was, if they're going to have this crossover, what about if they have King Kong, Godzilla, the Iron Giant, the BFG, and the Cloverfield monster, and form a monster Avengers, and have them fight, save the day, sort of like stopping bank robberies and stuff like that.
Who's going to be the Nick Fury of this Monsters Avengers?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it going to be Bryan Cranston's character? They're going to bring him back.
Yeah.
Be like, Godzilla, you're hiding something. Now come be on my big team.
Maybe Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. He'll turn into Giant Man and he'll be like, guys, we need to join forces.
I mean, I think I would be quite curious to see how they do that. I would quite like,
It'd certainly be an interesting film.
especially BFG and Iron Giant. But yeah,
Sophie, I'm going to join this team, Sophie. Going to fight crime, Sophie. Okay, BFG, get it. Leave me alone. I've got to go to college now. I've got to sell all my toys. Oh, tie it to another universe.
so yeah. But speaking of like BFG, that sort of like reboots for kid shows is happening, or kid films. It's happening quite a lot. Turn them into live action.
Yeah, live action
BFG
dramatic ones.
BFG apparently has done well.
I think it did okay here. It didn't do very well in America, I don't think.
Right. Did they get the original one?
They got the original one, yeah. But I think it did quite well, the original one over there. Where this one hasn't really done an awful lot, I don't think.
And then
Which is surprising, because I think Steven Spielberg didn't it, I think.
Oh, see?
So I was a bit surprised that this one didn't do very well, but...
And then there was, we had Jungle Book with Stringer Bell from The Wire, voicing a cat. I didn't mind that one. I thought I weren't too keen on the changes to the songs, but...
I'm going to be completely honest, I still haven't seen it yet.
No?
No,
I thought you would. I thought, like,
I
Jungle Book
really wanted to watch it. Jungle Book is my favourite kids film. But I just haven't had the chance yet. I've got it on DVD now.
Have
so
you?
I'm going to watch it soon, hopefully. Once I've, watched The Flash season 2.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Alright.
But yeah, no, I haven't actually managed to see it yet. So, but I'm looking forward to it. It did look pretty good. And I was told by a lot of people, yeah, it's great, you'll enjoy it. So.
Yeah, these ones have done better than, say, like Cinderella or Huntsman and things like that, who I don't even know people even...
They did a new one, didn't they, this year of The Huntsman? They did a sequel.
Yeah,
the Winter's
that
War
seemed like come out of nowhere. I didn't even realise they had a fan base for the last one.
I didn't think the last one did very well.
No.
Now all of a sudden it's got a sequel.
Or was it a prequel? I don't know. I had no idea what was going on.
Oh yeah, because he doesn't know the Queen yet, does he? Or something. It's just all like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was very surprised to see that.
Strange universe.
I mean, so we've been talking for quite a bit now, and I've enjoyed it. I mean, we just sort of picked random ones and saying, "Oh, don't really like that," or "Don't really like that one." I mean, we said good ones too, like Toy Story, some Jurassic Park sometimes, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fury Road. I mean, we
Mad
haven't
Max.
seen the original Mad Maxes, but did quite well.
That was a
That's
really good
cool.
film. I enjoyed that. It's a good sequel.
Yeah. It's not sure whether people aren't sure whether it was a sequel or like
Or
a
just
reboot.
standalone, like.
And one thing I had heard is that Mad Max is supposed to be sort of like a folk legend in this like dystopian sort of deserty place.
Yeah.
So they try and explain that they're not really linked, but they're just different people telling the story of Mad Max.
Ah, right.
And how he's just this crazy character, and that's why he's always just running in, and he's not really the focus.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's sort of like the story in like Fury Road was about like the people escaping, weren't
Yeah,
it, mainly, and he was just sort of helping
Kind
them.
of tagged on the side, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What a day! What a lovely day!
Yeah, that was good. And then of course there's the Back to the Future ones.
Best trilogy of all time.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree after
Well, I
only
would
just seeing it last year.
Well, I would agree. It's the only trilogy I've ever seen where all three parts are very good.
Yeah, I think I don't know. 'Cause it was all. I'm surprised it worked because they never planned it. They planned it to be a standalone one-off film, and then did a joke ending.
Oh, nice.
And then they sort of wrote themselves into a corner where
I had to do another one then, didn't they?
well, it was sort of like I think because it was successful. I think it was a few years later they made. Well, they made both the second and third one at the same time. That's why there's like the trailer at the end of the final one. End of the second one. So I think that's how it worked as a trilogy because they spent time planning the second two, and sort of like there's so many links to it. Like they have like the chicken thing, which is a bit silly, but they have it resolved. It builds up and gets resolved in the final one, but introduced in the second. And they have things like small little Easter eggs, like in the scenes where they're in the dystopian present or 85 with the giant hotel and Biff's like a millionaire. They have him in a bathtub, jacuzzi, watching a clip of Clint Eastwood Western movie, doing the whole. He gets shot, but he's wearing a sort of bit of metal.
Right, yeah.
That's all just foreshadowing
for the next
end
one.
one. And I liked all the because the thing they really do well with the Back to the Future films is like little hidden details, such as in the first one, the mayor character is actually the homeless guy he jumps over at the end and things like that. So it was good that they were able to keep that going.
I liked how as well, like in each of them, like for example, when he's waking up.
Yeah,
in the dark, and like played out differently each time. I quite like that.
That's some of my favourite bits. You got that one, and then there's the whole chase sequence. Skateboard, hoverboard, and then horses, and then there's the manure. Every time and stuff like that. So yeah, it really works. They're all linked really well.
Yeah,
and I think
that's brilliant.
One of the favourite things that I like of the second one is just how linked it is to the first one. Yeah. Because they just go back.
They literally see scenes, don't they? Yeah. The first one. That's brilliant.
I love that. That's sort of where they get really complicated with the time travel. Yeah. I mean, they get it wrong quite a bit because they defy their own logic. I mean, the only way I can explain it, sort of the way I can try and justify them, is that because the main plot hole I think people mention is the whole future Biff, he steals their time machine, goes back, changes the past, and then is somehow able to come back to their timeline.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can think of is that it's always gradual when they change time, because he's always slowly fading away.
Yeah.
Things happen slowly. They have it that the timeline slowly adjusts.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say actually. I watched, speaking of the DC shows, they did a new one called Legends of Tomorrow, and that's based a lot around time travel and stuff. And one of the big things they say in that is that time isn't set. It takes a while to actually set in stone. When you change something in the past, it takes a while for it to actually set in the future. So that
so
can
doing a
easily be
similar
used to
thing.
explain that away. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because that's how I try and explain it, because Marty, when he goes back to the present day in the first film, he sleeps before he goes back down the world to change. So I like to think that time was slowly changing for him then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Although saying that some things did happen instantly, but yeah, so time slowly changed because he had to like run to get to the mall and then sees Doc get shot again.
Yeah, yeah.
So that can you kind of say that Biff went to the future and then he was slowly being faded out.
Yeah.
And stuff. So yeah, they're really good sequels. The only flaw they have probably was the whole thing where they didn't really know how to write Jennifer, so they just throw her off and go like, oh, she's unconscious, so she meets her future self and faints. They didn't really do much with her.
There's not a lot they do with her. So.
They made her kind of like redundant, but other than that, I think that's sort of my favourite example of a good sequel.
That's definitely a very good set of sequels. I think.
Right. Well, I think that's like plenty of rambling for another good podcast. Thank you very much for coming on.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll probably bring it back sometime.
Definitely would love
Maybe
to come
next
back.
time. But yeah.
Next time on Slightly Sidetracked Productions.
Yeah. So thank you very much for listening. See you next time.
Toodles.
Bye.